Hey everyone, since it's Trans Day of Visibility, and this also officially marks my 5-year anniversary of creating this channel, I wanted to pop in and say hey. Similar to previous years, I send my love to all of you. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about why Trans Day of Visibility is an important day to me and a lot of other people in the community. This day that happens every year on March 31st. I also wanted to share some exciting news about the channel, which feels fitting since I started my channel in 2018 on Trans Day of Visibility. And one of my motivations for creating this channel was to be more visible and try to use my visibility to try to help others in the community, to help other trans people out there. So before I kind of dive into stuff about my channel specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about TDOV. This is a day that continues to feel important to me. This is a day that I think really helps highlight strengths in the community, positive representation, gender euphoria, the beauty of being trans. All these positive things that help serve as a counterbalance to days like Trans Day of Remembrance. For me, TDOV, among other things, serves as a reminder to not just focus on the negative when it comes to our lives as trans people and thinking of society more broadly when we just talk about trans people and trans experiences and trans identities. Society has a tendency to focus on what is wrong, focus on the struggles, the pain, the discrimination, the violence, the hardship. And of course, all of that is very important to discuss because it reflects the very real lived realities of so many trans people. We absolutely have our fair share of struggles, with some of us struggling even more than others, those of us that are held multiple marginalized identities in the community, like trans women of color. But it's important to remember that we are so much more than our suffering. We're so much more than the negative experiences. So many of us, we have hopes, we have dreams, we want to be able to be ourselves in the world. We want to be able to thrive and be happy being ourselves. One of the big things that I think motivates transition and coming out in the first place. But we also want to be able to do, I think, mundane, just everyday things that a lot of people take for granted. A lot of cis people are able to take for granted. We want to be able to do these things like going to the bathroom without a fear of discrimination, without a fear of violence. Things, again, that the vast majority of cisgender people are able to take for granted. And as in years past, I still feel that that is not too much to ask for. Really, TDOV reminds me to also make sure that we're creating intentional time and space and energy for the beauty and strength that shows up in our communities. And I think it's important to recognize the strength and beauty in our community, especially in light of, all of the negative things that are happening in the world. It's important to recognize our strength and resilience in light of having yet another record year of anti-trans legislation here in the United States. I don't want to focus too much on that, but I think it's important to remember that there's still so many battles that we're fighting, but we want to take time, intentional time, for those positive experiences as well. But as I've mentioned before, visibility, this idea of visibility, it's complicated. It's not a simple thing, and it can look very different for different people. I personally believe there's a beauty for me in being able to be out and proud and being able to do things that are really aligned with my passions and giving back to the community. But I also recognize that not everyone wants that, not everyone needs that. Visibility can come with beautiful things like community and connection, but it can also come with the risk of living publicly as trans in a world that is often filled with transphobia. And, for some of you, you may be early in transition, some of you may be living stealth or desire to live stealth, and again, some of you, visibility is not a priority. And then for others of you, being out and proud is important to you, or somewhere in between. Regardless, all of you are valid, regardless of your identities, where you're at in your transition, and how you relate to this idea of visibility. You are all 100% completely valid. Days like today are a powerful reminder Days like today can be a powerful reminder that even if you feel alone and scared, know that there are so many other beautiful trans and non-binary people out there. There's a whole community of people like myself, that are just waiting and wanting to show you love and support and a sense of community. All of these things which you very much deserve. For those of you, the allies, we need you to stand up for trans and non-binary people. Those in your life, your loved ones, your friends, family, people in your communities, to be involved alongside trans communities, to take steps to help elevate trans voices and experiences. Be involved in advocacy efforts. Learn about the history of trans people and trans people's experiences. Learn terminology, ways to be inclusive. Acknowledge that you'll make mistakes. We all make mistakes throughout our lives. It's part of being imperfectly human. Simply correct yourself, apologize, and move on, so that way as an ally, you don't make the issue about you. It's easy for somebody to say that they're an ally, but be sure to have actions that, back up those words. Because I think at the end of the day, it's trans and non-binary people have the say in terms of who is or isn't a true ally. And of course, that's going to look different to different people as well. But, your actions speak louder than your words. I think that is an important piece to take home. Use that privilege, if you're a cis person, to help stand up for and uplift trans voices, trans experiences. Yeah, so in the spirit of TDOV and how it connects to my channel, I also wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about what's coming next for my channel. I have for a long time been feeling a desire to come back. It's now been a year since the last video I put out on TDOV of last year. And, I had taken a break for a few months prior to that as well. I've been feeling, again, this desire to come back, to feel more connected to all of you, to feel more connected to trans community, because I think that is one of the most powerful things that I have gotten out of this experience of having a YouTube channel, being able to share my story, being able to find any ways possible to provide support, to provide resources, and then feel that sense of connection to trans community. I don't have a specific set date of when new content will come out, but know this: I am in the process of creating new content. I've already created a few new videos, and I expect to be putting out a series of videos, hopefully over the summer. But again, in the spirit of TDOV, I again want to emphasize that, I love you all, and I've been thinking about all of you. I see all of you. I still read the comments. I still read all of the comments. And even though I haven't replied to a lot of them, I hope to one day. And even if I don't reply, know that I'm still seeing your comments. And know that every time I see a comment, it means the world to me. Well, except for those handful of comments that aren't so positive, but we don't need to talk about those. I'm still finding balance, finding ways to find balance and self-care and all of that in my life currently. But, after really reflecting, realize this channel is truly important to me, and I want to come back. I am coming back, at least for brief seasons, because all of you are important to me, and I really feel like this is a big passion of mine, to be able to have this opportunity to put out content. So even if my relationship now with my channel looks different than it did in the past and might continue to evolve and change, regardless, putting out content is something that is important to me. That's something that feels very clear to me. In closing, I hope all of you find ways to celebrate Trans Day of Visibility, whether it's, finding a local event, an online event, finding and spending time with supportive people in your life, finding activities, finding things you can be involved in that help you feel affirmed, whether it's, with other people or by yourself, depending on where you're at in your transition and in your journey and what you are comfortable with. May even be spending time with a pet that provides that unconditional love that is so important. Similar to previous years, I'll share some links down below to some organizations that you can donate to, especially allies, but only do so if you have the means to do so. Also, I encourage all of you to share down in the comments below What does Trans Day of Visibility mean to you? Does it hold a level of importance, or does it just feel like any other day? Again, all connections to this are valid. What's coming up for you? What do you plan to do for TDOV, if anything? What thoughts and feelings come up for you when you think of Trans Day of Visibility, or what thoughts and feelings come up when you just think of the idea of visibility in general? Where do you hope to be in your journey by next year's Trans Day of Visibility? I know this is a question I asked last year, so feel free to share for those of you that have seen previous TDOV videos of mine. How has your journey progressed and grown since previous Trans Days of Visibility? And, are there any other reactions that you have to what I've shared here today? Let me know any and all of that down in the comments below. And of course, as always, Tipsy and I love you all and hope you're staying safe and sound. Like I said earlier, I'm not coming back to YouTube right away, and the way I come back will look different than in the past, but know that I will be putting out some new videos soon, and know that this is an important journey for me that I want to continue taking with all of you. And again, Tipsy and I send our love. Goodbye for now.